Secretary of State Antony Blinken was at the UN this week, showing support for Ukraine and pleading for Vladimir Putin to end the war.
This comes as there are concerns China could take a more active role in supporting Russia. CBS News' UN correspondent Pamela Falk spoke with Ukraine's UN ambassador about these concerns and President Biden's recent trip to his country.
That is the event that will be fully appreciated years from now. Do you remember that any American president made a trip to an area that is basically a battlefield, where there are no US troops, no US bases? I mean, that step of President Biden will be part of the history books for generations. And if we cannot fully appreciate that, well, we are very excited. We express our gratitude, our appreciation at the moment, but the whole value and meaning of that trip will be fully appreciated years from now.
Are you worried about what the White House is worried about China assisting Russia, sending in more arms, sending in more money to fight Ukraine?
I'm totally with what both Secretary Blinken and President Biden said, that supplying lethal weapons to Russia will be the crossing of the red line.
And what would that red line look like?
That red line would, I hope, never be crossed, because if China starts supplying Russia with lethal weapons, it's going to be the case of China starting a real Third World War. And I'm sure that it's against the intrinsic interests of China.
Are you worried that diplomats at the UN or US politicians or European politicians will tire of the spending that's needed to fight Russia's invasion, and how to keep people involved around the world?
It's not about being tired, it's about being resilient. And I think that one of the things that the Ukrainians have demonstrated through the last 12 months is the incredible degree of resilience.
Tell us what impact a General Assembly resolution can have, even with so much of the world agreeing that with Ukraine on a peace plan, when it's not enforceable?
Well, first of all, let us speak about the basics. The UN General Assembly is in fact the only global body that globally expresses itself when it comes to this aggression against Ukraine. The other one, which is very important but totally immobilized by Russia, is the Security Council. So the Security Council is unable to act properly because Russia entertains the Soviet right to veto. So the General Assembly, ironically due to this tragedy of Ukraine, has gained momentum in the course of the last 12 months. And the level of support is incredible. We have to understand that we may have differences and we have many shades of views, but when you have 70 up to 75% of the membership that supports the UN principles and the principles of the UN Charter. And why I say the UN Charter? Because practically every resolution that has been put to a vote by Ukraine and our partners is based on the UN Charter. So they may not be happy with certain things, some countries, but they are very resolved when it comes to the need to uphold the Charter, because many of them will never have the armies that would defend them. So the UN Charter, believe it or not, no matter how pathetic it sounds, is the only point of reference for their defense.
What do you think is the projection of Russia, direct talks between Ukraine and Russia?
As it stands at the moment, I don't really see that it makes any sense to sit down with Putin and to negotiate. Not only because he is not capable to accept the principles that the UN General Assembly stands for, but because he's totally out of his mind. I mean, and I think that the Ukrainian officials and some Western officials have already made it very clear, including those, by the way, in the West who made efforts to talk to Putin to no avail.